Hey guys, today I'll be discussing a Major League Baseball betting strategy that I call the snapped losing streak. Now keep watching because I'll show you two specific winning strategies that will make your bankroll grow. Now, this in depth analysis is going to answer the following question. When a Major League Baseball undergoes a long losing streak before finally winning a game to snap the streak, how does it tend to react in its next game?
Let me make sure that things are clear to you. So we have a team that has gone through a long losing streak. Maybe they lose. So they are on a 6-game losing streak before finally snapping it with a win. And the question is, well, what happens next? Are they more likely to win a second straight game? Or are they going to go back to their losing ways?
The statistical study that I'll talk about in this video is based on all games from 7 full seasons, covering the 2010 to 2016 period. In case you're wondering, I've omitted the most recent seasons simply because I do not own the data. So in total, we have data on more than 17,000 games. So that's a huge data set that is pretty reliable. Let's start with a basic exploration of the data. Let me call Team A a team that has undergone a long losing streak before finally winning a game. So the question is, what would have been the results from placing $1 bets in their following game during the 2010 to 2016 regular seasons?
Alright, so let's look at this table where we are either betting Team A or fading Team A, where fading means betting against. So in each case, we look at the number of bets that we won, the number of bets that we lost, and the profit from placing $1 bet each time. And the first column presents the length of the losing streak. For example, let's look at the very first row, where the length was 3. So that means Team A lost 3 straight games, and then they finally managed to snap that losing streak by winning. And the question is, what happens next? Well, if you look at the numbers in the first row, you see that betting Team A yielded a 517,499 record. And if you had placed $1 bets in each of those 1,016 games, you would have made a profit of approximately $9. Now if you look at the last 3 columns, fading Team A or betting against Team A, well, obviously the win-loss record is flipped, and the profit turned out to be minus $45 approximately. So that was a very bad strategy. Now if we quickly look at the next row, so a length of losing streak equal to 4, so that means Team A lost. So they underwent a 4-game losing streak before finally winning, and then in their following game they won 235 times and they lost 291 times for an overall profit of minus $54.56, whereas fading Team A would have been a good idea. We made a $36 profit. Okay, so now if you look at the very last row, the total, Well, both options of either betting Team A or fading Team A turned out to be equally bad. Overall, we lost $36 from betting Team A, and we lost $51 from betting against Team A. Okay, now don't worry, we will dig a little deeper and we will eventually find two winning strategies. So bear with me. So I just said that betting Team A and fading Team A did not work out very well. But is it possible that one of them works out pretty well and provides value as the length of the losing streak increases? For example, is it possible that betting Team A is a good idea if the length of the losing streak was, for example, 7 or more? Well, let's look at the numbers here. Well, you could argue that betting Team A when the length was 5 or more works out well. If you add these numbers up, you get plus $9.15. However, if you look a little deeper, you'll see that basically all the profit was made here when the length was 5 or 6, and it was not profitable when the length was 7 or more, so it doesn't really make much sense. So I suggest that we just stay away from this strategy. And if you look at fading Team A, well, there's nothing very interesting. So if you look at, for example, a length of 7 or more, you see quickly that we lost money. Or if you take 6 or more, well, it's even worse. If you look at 5 or more, it's even worse. So basically there's nothing really good that comes out of it.
As you are probably already aware, Major League Baseball teams often play the same opponent for 3 or 4 game series. Now, do the results that we saw earlier change depending on whether Team A faces the same team again after beating them, or faces a different team?
Okay, let me show you the results from betting or fading Team A, depending on whether they are facing the same team that they beat the day before, or facing a different team. Now, before I move on, let me tell you about a little detail. You may have noticed that the last row when facing the same team is 10 plus, whereas when facing a different team, the last row is a length of 8 plus. The reason is simply that the sample size was too small when facing a different team, because Major League Baseball teams play much more often against the same team that they played the day before than a new opponent. Okay, let's focus on betting Team A for now. Recall how previously we saw that this strategy led to a $36 loss. Well, these losses were fairly even split between the case of facing the same team or a different team, because you can see here that we lost $19 when facing the same team and $17 when playing a different team. Now the question is, do we get positive gains as the length of the losing streak increases? Well, in this table, when facing the same team, it's not the case. Okay, so for example, here you see that we lost quite a bit of money when the length was 7 or more. But when facing a different team, this looks pretty good. So when the length was 6 or more, we made a profit of plus $18.83 on 93 games. If you divide the profit by the number of games, you get a ROI, a return on investment, of 20.2%. 32%, which is great. Although the sample size is fairly small, so let's not get too excited. But still, that's pretty promising. So I'm going to call this strategy number 1. Okay, and I'll go back in a few minutes to the meaning of strategy number 1. So let me just finish the numbers from these two tables first. So how about fading Team A or betting against Team A? Do we get good results when the length of the losing streak was increased, was large? Well, the answer is not really if you look at these two tables. There's nothing really very interesting when fading Team A in this situation. Okay, so let me remind you what strategy number 1 means. Okay, so we are betting Team A, which means we are betting the team that underwent a long losing streak. And that streak must be of length 6 or more. Okay, so for example, they lose 6 straight. They finally snap the losing streak. And in their next game, this is when we are going to bet on them, hoping that they win, because we are betting them, we are not fading them. But we must do so only when facing a different team. So the opponent that they beat here must be different from the opponent here. Alright? So that's our first promising strategy.
Why don't we split the results based on whether Team A was the visiting or the home team? Perhaps we'll find some interesting findings.
First, let's see what happens when Team A was the road team. Well, backing Team A might sound appealing when seeing that we made money when the length was 5 or more. We made approximately $23 in this range. However, the profits were made when the length was exactly 5 or 6. So it doesn't make sense from a logical standpoint. I mean, who's going to trust a strategy that says, well, do it if the losing streak was of length 5 or 6, but don't bet if the length was 4 or if the length was 7. Okay, so what we're looking for is a strategy that says, do this if the length was X or more. Now, fading Team A turned out to be a poor choice across the board. I mean, we lost money no matter what the length was, except here when the length was exactly 4. But again, that's not a very promising strategy. Okay, let's now turn our attention to the situation where Team A plays in front of its home crowd, after seeing its losing streak getting snapped in their previous game. Well, under such circumstances, betting Team A does not seem like a viable idea. I mean, overall we lost $27, and increasing the length of the losing streak did not change the outcome. It was still bad. Now, in contrast, fading Team A whenever the length of the losing streak was 4 or more yielded a net profit of $9.69. But unfortunately, we need once again to leave out this potential system due to its illogicalness. I mean, it did pretty well when the streak's length was exactly 4, but it fared terribly when the length was 5 or more.
Does it make a difference if Team A was facing the same team or a different one? It does. As a matter of fact, you'll see that it provides a second profitable betting strategy.
Okay, first let's go back to the case where Team A was on the road, but this time splitting the results into the two possible scenarios. So facing the same team or facing a different team. Well, when glancing through the first table, there's nothing very interesting or promising. But the only glimmer of hope comes from the case where we wager on Team A when facing a different team after snapping a losing streak of length 6 or more. So these three cases here. If you add these numbers up, you get plus $8 over 46 games. But I strongly recommend excluding this strategy because of its very small sample size, which makes the results pretty unreliable. Now, what if Team A was at home, still splitting the results, depending on if they're facing the same team as the day before or facing a different team? Well, let me summarize quickly the results from these two tables. There is nothing good in the table that's on the screen right now, but when facing the same team as the day before, you may want to fade Team A when the length of the losing streak was 4 or more. If you add these numbers up, you get a nice profit of $22.48.
Yes!
Over 406 games. So if you divide the first number by the second, you get a ROI, a return on investment of 5.5%, which is great considering the large sample size that we have here. Okay, so this is what I'm going to call strategy number 2. And let me recap what it actually means. Okay, so we need a length of losing streak of 4 or more. So let's use 4. So we have a team that we called Team A that loses 4 straight games. Then they finally snap the losing streak, they win. And in the next game, this is when we want to fade them. That is, we want to bet against them. So we are hoping for a loss here. But we do it only if Team A is playing at home here. So we are betting the road team in this case. And the other criterion is they have to be facing the same team. So let's say the opponent was Cleveland when they snapped the losing streak. Well, it must be Cleveland again when we fade them.
Let's now look at the odds split, which means looking at the results depending on the money line on the team that we are betting. Basically, we want to check if we make more or less money depending on if we're betting the underdog or the favorite.
Let's break down strategy number 1's results as a function of the odds. Okay, so each row in this table represents a specific range of odds. Let's look at the first row. And the odds are presented both in American or decimal format. In brackets, they are shown in decimal format. Let's look at the first row. It says that we bet Team A whenever its odds were between 0 and minus 200 in American format, which is the equivalent of 1.50 in decimal format. The second row shows the case where we bet Team A whenever its odds were between minus 200 and minus 175 in American format. If you're more comfortable with decimal odds, that means betting Team A when the money line was between 1.50 and 1.5714. In this case, we had a 1-0 record. We netted a 56-cent profit. If we look quickly at the third row, we bet on Team A when the odds were between minus 175 and minus 150. in which case we obtained a nice 6-1 record, racking up $2.83 in the process. Now if you look at the very last column of the table, the profit, you'll see that we basically made money across all odds except the last two cases at the bottom, which shows the case where we bet on fairly big underdogs. Well, more specifically, these cases correspond to betting on a money line above plus 175 in American format, which is 2.75 or more in decimal format. So let me call this strategy 1B. It's going to be the same as the first strategy, except that we are going to add a criterion based on the money line. Well, the strategy number 1 description is shown at the top. It says betting team A if facing a different team and the length of the snapped losing streak was 6 or more. But now we also want to include the fact that we want to stay away from huge underdogs. So we want to bet only if the line was less than plus 175. Okay, the performance of strategy 1B is as follows. The profit is plus $24.59 over 81 games for a lofty ROI of around 30%, 30.4% more precisely, which is very good, but again remember that we have a small sample size. Let's now have a peek at strategy number 2's results as a function of the money line. Well, here you could either argue that the system worked well across all odds, or that you should stay away from the case where the money line on team A was between 0 and 1.5, where we lost close to $5. Well, I've decided to go with the second option, the one where we are going to focus on these cases only, and this is what I'm going to call strategy number 2B, which is fading team A if facing the same team, the length of the snap losing streak was 4 or more, team A at home, and now we add the criterion that the money line on team A must be at least 1.5. So what's the performance of strategy 2B? So if you add the profit figures together, you get $27.36 on 388 games. And the ROI, the return on investment, turns out to be 7.1%, which is great for such a big sample size. So that's a very promising strategy that we will keep in mind.
Alright, the final section of this video, which is called the season split. Personally, I'm willing to put money on a system if it has shown a good performance almost every season. In plain English, I want to observe some consistency across the years.
Here is how strategy number 1B fared in each season from 2010 to 2016. If you focus on the last column, the profit column, you'll see that we made money in every single season except in 2011 and 2012. But notice how the losses were pretty minimal. They were very small. So there was not a single season where we suffered a huge loss. So based on all of this evidence, I do endorse this system because it showed great consistency across the years. Let me now unveil the yearly performance of strategy number 2B. As you can see in the table on your screen, we had 5 winning seasons versus only 2 losing ones. So the two losing seasons were in 2010 and 2012. I'm a bit concerned by what happened in 2010 because the losses were fairly big, but still I believe this system is worth pursuing in the future because the consistency is still fairly good overall. Alright, so thanks for bearing with me. I know there were lots of numbers in this video, maybe your head is spinning, but trust me, it is all worth it if you want to make more money in sports betting. So let's recap the two winning strategies that we have found based on the losing streak, the snapped losing streak effect. So the first winning strategy was betting a team whose losing streak of length 6+ was just snapped in their previous game, but bet only if that team is now facing a different team and its money line is 2.75 or less, which means we are staying away from cases where we are betting huge underdogs. So if we did that in the 2010 through 2016 period, we would have won $24.59 by placing $1 bets on each game. And the ROI of this strategy was a lofty 30%. So the expected profit per season is 3.51 units. You can obtain that figure by simply dividing the profit, $24.59, by 7 seasons, because my dataset contained data on 7 full seasons. Now the second winning strategy that we discovered today was the following. Fading a team, which means betting against a team whose losing streak of length 4+ was just snapped in their previous game. But bet only if that team is at home, so you are betting the road team since we are fading the home team. And the home team's money line must be above 1.5 and it must be playing the same team once again. So using these criteria, our profit was $27.36 over 388 games, so that's a ROI of 7%. The expected profit per season, which can be obtained by dividing the profit, 27 and 36, by 7 seasons, is 3.91 units. Well, what does that mean concretely? Well, if you combine these two winning strategies together, so your expected profit per season is 7.42 units. So if your average bet is $1,000 per play, well, you should expect to earn $7,420 per season. If your average bet is $100 instead, well, simply divide those numbers by 10. So your expected net profit per season would be $742. Well, that may not seem like a huge profit, and that's why you should play many such systems at the same time in order to make substantial money. And in this regard, I invite you to take a look at my other videos discussing other sports betting strategies.
Congratulations! You now have 2 weapons at your disposal to beat your bookies. Now, you can have many more such weapons if you wish. As of now, which is May 2019, I have developed 11 betting strategies on Major League Baseball alone. It can be tricky and time-consuming to check every team every day if they qualify under the many criteria set by my 11 betting strategies. But don't worry, I can do it for you. I'm offering a service where you receive directly in your mailbox every day before noon all of the system plays in baseball. Just go to my website, professormj.com, and go to the section called Sport Betting Strategies. You will find there all of the details on how to sign up to the mailing list, providing an average of 3.3 picks per day. Come join the numerous other smart sports investors like you that have already subscribed. That's it for me. Thanks for watching. This is Professor MJ saying so long.